Hello, my beautiful friends. What an amazing day it is, and welcome back. We're waiting for those tubes to connect themselves on this lovely Monday. I hope your weekend was outstanding and amazing. We got some business to attend to today. I think we have a plan. We are waiting on the president. Don't know if we're going to get him today or not. We have this situation that pops up from time to time where everyone thinks he's coming out. We ran into this last week. Even Live Now from Fox is saying, upcoming live, President Trump signs executive orders from inside the Oval Office. This is live right now. A bunch of people watching over there. We're waiting for it to happen because it's also on the presidential schedule today at 3 o'clock. That's our time. And hello and welcome to the time change. Of course, we're here in Arizona. And so we don't change for nobody ever. And we're not going to start now. So this will be the show time for the foreseeable future. Absent any whims that pop through my head, maybe we'll change it again, but this hopefully will be the time. But we're waiting for the president, so we're going to keep our eye on that. If he pops out and comes and signs some executive orders, we'll jump in on that, but I don't know if he's going to be there or not. Right now, what they've got for us live is protesters, apparently in New York City. They arrested somebody for something, and they're upset about it. So just lots of protests. Here's what that sounds like. Oh, nice drums back there. All right, so that's going on in New York City. If the president comes out, we'll talk about it. Otherwise, we got plenty other business to attend to, but that was supposed to be happening right now. So we're just kind of waiting on something to come from the White House. They do say it's closed press, so I don't know if we'll just get some orders later. Don't know what that means exactly, but all right, that's what's coming up. So if that happens, we'll come back on that. But in the meantime, a bunch of other business to attend to, including this motion to dismiss. And you know how much we like a good motion to dismiss here. This one's coming from Elon Musk in his official capacity against the state of New Mexico and a bunch of the other loser blue states that have sued to try to stop Elon, essentially. Who is this guy? He's like unelected, not appointed. And we've been saying he's just like a chief of staff. He's just like anyone else that is in close proximity to the president, who the president relies on, and who interfaces with other branches and other individuals. And we had several examples. There'll be several more that will be coming up soon. So a bunch on that. We also have some news on this CBP app, which is pretty wild. So all these illegals were like, hey, man, it's like DoorDash into America. I can just like DoorDash myself in there. 3 illegals, 2 minors, 3 minors. How old are you? Yeah, we'll call you a minor. And 4 babies, and we'll just DoorDash ourselves in. Biden's like, oh, no problem. Here's an airplane. Pick them up, DoorDash them right in to some government NGO. And that was the deal. But now they reversed it. Now it's DoorDash the other way. So now you can DoorDash yourself right on out of our country. Adios and bon voyage. So we'll talk about that because Bill Melugin had some fun posts on this, including some screenshots on some of the changes that we can look at and see some reaction on the border, because there were a bunch of things happening. And additional arrests, 646 illegals in the Houston area arrested, bunch of nefarious actors there. We've got Tom Homan, we've got Kristi Noem, and others who are out talking about the solution that is coming soon at the border. We've also got some updates on some fired and revoked conspirators, we'll call them. People like Jake Sullivan, Anthony Blinken, Lisa Monaco, all got their security clearances and their access to classified information revoked. That's courtesy of the new director of national intelligence called Tulsi Gabbard. So good news over there as well. So a bunch of good stuff we'll get to today. Going to keep our eye on the president. For some reason, I just don't think it's going to happen today. I don't think we're going to see him. Here's what we've got, but we'll see if that changes. If it does, and if I'm missing it somewhere, somebody scream at me like you're all so good at doing sometimes when I need it. All right, so, well, let's talk about this because Elon Musk just dropped this one. A motion to dismiss from Elon Musk now hitting the District of Columbia. This was that lawsuit brought by a bunch of the states, including the state of New Mexico and a bunch of the other blues, They all got together. They said, I know what we can do to stop this. Let's stop Elon. He's so smart. Everyone else in the government's dumb. So if we can stop the smart kid, maybe we can get back control of our bureaucracy. So they sued Elon Musk. And remember that the courts have come back down and said, hey, it's about time for Elon, via his role in the government, in his official capacity, so they're not suing him personally, to file a motion to dismiss. Now, Elon has dropped that. This came courtesy of the Civil Division of the U.S. Department of Justice. This is the attorney, Joshua Gardner, along with others who are acting assistant AG and others from other parts of the country. So we've got a Florida lawyer, a D.C. lawyer, and a New York lawyer all joining in on this on behalf of Elon and, of course, DOGE. So they say, all right, listen, we are now moving to dismiss this complaint that was brought by these Democrat states, a bunch of them. And you remember New Mexico, that one governor who tried to eliminate the Second Amendment via executive order, Lujan, whatever her name is. Remember her? She's like, well, I don't like guns because they're dangerous. So executive order, you're banned. Wow. That's the interesting interpretation of the Constitution in your power, you lunatic. But they tried that. And now they're trying to take out Elon, even though he's lawfully in his position of power and he's a consultant, right? The power that is being exacted is done via the president and the agency heads who are appointed by the president and confirmed by the Senate. So you can see we're fast forwarding through a bunch of the outline, table of contents, table of cases, table of authorities, and then we get to the good stuff. Here's what the DOJ says on behalf of Elon. They say, all right, listen, District of Columbia, by the complaint's own terms, okay, the state's all sued, so they're all complaining, Elon's illegal. They agree. They say that Elon does not occupy an office of the United States, okay? They're even admitting it in their own filings. He's not running an office. They allege only that he wields, quote, de facto power. Now, that should be the end of this ill-conceived challenge brought by the Blues against Trump and Elon, saying the appointments clause is concerned with one thing. If you read the Constitution, it says it's about the actual exercise of formal government authority. Now, the reason we have that is because it is designed to ensure that when Congress creates an office with certain legal power, the person holding that office and exercising that power has been selected and is approved in an appropriate and politically accountable manner. Now, where a person neither holds an office nor wields its de jure authority, like its actual authority, the appointments clause has nothing to say. Okay, anybody with a good idea can bring that idea into the government. The government can act upon that idea if the people who have the power to make those decisions decide to take action. Any objection to that person's actions are simply not constitutional in nature. Now, what their problem is with Lujan and others, their contrary view rests on conflating these two concepts. It's called influence versus authority. Two distinct concepts. They sound similar, but maybe when they break it down, they'll be able to understand how it works. They say the states, in effect, that others in the executive branch, they listen to Elon and his allies. But treating that as a triggering constitutional need, okay, just because Elon is in the room and he says, hey, maybe you guys shouldn't do stuff that's dumb like this anymore. And they go, yeah, that's a pretty good idea, Elon. They're allowed to do that. If you say we need some sort of a constitutional limitation on that, that would be a remarkable and untenable change in the law. The White House has long been populated by aides and advisors who wield tremendous de facto sway over the government, right? Remember Hillary Clinton? She was there with Bill. She was charged with reforming the nation's healthcare system. That didn't work out so well for her because she was always angling for a political position, right? She was always going to run. Karl Rove designed much of the Bush administration's domestic policy. You remember Rahm Emanuel, Don McGahn, John Podesta. They were no wallflowers. They're chiefs of staff, White House counsels, and other senior advisors. They always come out like the most influential people in D.C., blah, blah, blah. They're all in there. They're all advising based solely on their soft power. But that has never given rise to an appointments clause problem at all because none of those persons held any legal office or authority at all. And how much power did Jill Biden have over Joe Biden, for crying out loud? What was Hunter doing there all the time? Besides snorting crack. or coke. Here is no different, they say. Again, on the state's own telling, Elon Musk has massive, perhaps even decisive influence over the DOGE-related portfolio of domestic policy. But the one thing he lacks, okay, so they're upset. Elon's very influential. He's got a lot of influence in everything. But the one thing he lacks is exactly what the Appointments Clause requires, which is an office. And that office is established by law, according to the Constitution, and vested with the formal power to act as an officer of the United States. U.S. Constitution, Article 2, Section 2, Clause 2. Now that dooms the blue states' constitutional claims, and their derivative statutory claims fail for many of the same reasons. So they're basing their argument that Elon's a bad person who needs to be extricated from the government on the Constitution. He violates this. He should be appointed. He's not appointed. They say, we know he's not appointed. He's just like Susie Wiles, other chiefs of staff, Rahm Emanuel. They're not appointed and confirmed by the Senate, but they go around and they interface and they do a bunch of stuff. Elon's the same. Now but in addition to that, right, it's not a violation of the Constitution. Then they stack in a bunch of other statutory claims, which say, well, the U.S. Code, Congress passed a law that says, well, if any of those conflict with the Constitution, then they're irrelevant. Nobody cares about your little U.S. Code. Now, that said, Trump's DOJ on behalf of Elon continues. They say, while the merits are straightforward, this court should not reach them because the state and all of the blue states, there's like 12 or 19 of them, whatever the number is, they lack standing, by the way. The states marshal many grievances about both Musk and DOGE, but absent from these general objections is a single allegation showing an actual or imminent injury suffered by the states, right? They're just whining about stuff that is prospective. Instead, at every turn, the blue states like New York and Tisch and the rest of them are all complaining about possible injuries that might happen in the event that Elon takes certain contemplated actions at a chorus of federal agencies, which are all led by their own officers, many of whom have been nominated by the president and have been duly confirmed by the Senate. So this is like bizarro world, okay, Judge? This highly speculative chain of events is not the stuff of Article 3, all right? Judge, you're supposed to be confined to the Constitution. Article 3 gives you your jurisdiction. You're not supposed to sit here and play, that game of telephone or whatever, or that Mad Libs, to see if you can come up with a possibility. If a state ends up being actually harmed by some identifiable government act, then the state can come back and challenge the legality of that act or the province in court. But they can't just come in here and just say, we're mad at Elon. Babies, shoehorning their policy broadside into a justiciable controversy. Like we can sue over that because they're mad? Trump's DOJ continues. And they tell us, let's go back to this executive order. They want to investigate the history and assemble this for us. And your boy's double checking to make sure we're not missing the president on anything else. Let me just click this button over here to make sure. Now, they go back talking about DOGE. They say, all right, listen, here's some background, District of Columbia. On January 20th, President Trump entered the DOGE order. We know it well. It said that there should be a temporary organization called the DOGE Service, and the USDS administrator, the head person of DOGE, reports directly to the White House Chief of Staff. It also requires agency heads to establish DOGE teams, and the DOGE teams are within the agencies, and they might include special government employees and more. So the U.S. DOGE Service Executive Order directed collaboration between all of these different entities to increase efficiency and productivity and to make sure that they work together. Then on February 11th, Trump signed an executive order to submit a plan to reduce the size of the federal government's workforce. And they got mad about that. The Workforce EO directed agency heads to promptly undertake preparations for large-scale RIFs, reduction in forces, and more. In addition, agency heads must submit to the director of the OMB a report that details the following. Now, Elon Musk is here. He is a special government employee. An SGE is an officer or employee of the executive or legislative branch of the government who is retained with or without compensation for a period not to exceed 130 days during a 365 period. So this person is either full-time or intermittent basis. It's a temporary type position. And so Mr. Musk, in this position, does not occupy an office of the United States, has no authority to exercise the powers of an officer. Now, even the blue states don't allege that Musk has any formal authority at all. Instead, the states say that Musk has de facto power because he comes with good ideas. And like everybody wants to copy his homework, so he must be thrown out. 14 states, there's the official number, filed this lawsuit back on February 13th. And it was like the biggest complainers of them all. I'm pretty sure Tish is in there, Lujan's in there, and a bunch more. Now, the complaint names Elon Musk and Trump. They say this is a violation of the Appointments Clause. Elon Musk is operating in excess of his statutory authority. They want an injunction. They want a declaration. They want something ordering Elon Musk to identify all ways in which any data obtained through his agency was used and how they're training algorithmic models and derivative data and who's in custody and control of all of this. They also want unidentified conduct. They say anything that Elon has done shall have no legal effect. Okay, so everything Elon has done for these last however many days, they want to undo. It's all ultra virus, which means it was all done outside of the law and it has no legal effect. And we're saying, hello, dummies. He didn't do anything. He was just there talking to people like maybe you should do this and maybe you should do this. And they all said, we will do that. Thank you for that great idea, Elon. We will go do that. On February 18th, the court denied the state's motion for a TRO. Womp, they said, you're not even being harmed, dumb states. The court observed, based on the record, that the states could not meet their burden. They say that there's a bunch of if statements, If Musk or DOGE cancel or reduce federal funding, or if they cancel federal state contracts, remember the USAID contracts are being canceled hand over fist. In fact, I've got a statement on that for Marco Rubio coming up, explaining how much they've canceled, and it's tremendous. Now, whether that money gets spent is a different situation, okay? You can cancel the contracts, save a bunch of money. You still got to spend that money because it's already been appropriated by Congress, right? This is the great impoundment debate. Now, that doesn't mean that it's a loss. It just means you're putting that money into productive things, not into trans dance ballets in the Congo. So the court emphasized that the possibility that Trump may take actions is not enough, right? It's got to be like legit, really, it's got to be becoming imminent, irreparable harm that you can't do anything about, beyond just monetary damages and more. Saying, so here's the legal standard. If the states who are suing Trump are going to win, we've got to make sure that they can survive a motion to dismiss, saying that they didn't state a claim, right? This is a common provision in the law called 12b-6. It's a motion to dismiss based on 12b-6. It's saying the other side has failed to state a claim. It's like, look, even if everything that they wrote, okay, you get sued. Even if everything that they wrote in that document is true, that's great. I still can't be sued because there's no violation of any statute. There's no actual claim. Like Rob's a jerk, and okay, that might be true. He's boring. He thinks his jokes are funny. Okay, all true. It's not illegal to sit here and laugh at myself. It should be maybe, but it's not. Probably. But the point is, you can put all of that in an allegation, but you got to actually state there was a violation of something. They didn't do that. It's got to be, even if accepted as true, we got to be able to grant relief to you based on this violation. Now, the court considers this complaint in its entirety, and even if we said it was all true, it still doesn't matter. So, Judge, you can't hear this. And by the way, they don't even have standing. These states are so dumb. It says to invoke the jurisdiction of this court, they must show. It's not like maybe or could show or could be possible that they have suffered or will suffer an injury that is concrete and particularized, actual or imminent, and traceable back to Trump or Elon, and that you can do something about with a favorable ruling. Okay, it's a lot. It's a very high standard. Now, this alleged injury cannot be speculative and more. If it has not materialized, it has to be certainly impending. They must demonstrate that it's coming. Now, the states aren't satisfying this at all. Initially, their assertion that they didn't need to show injury to support this was wrong. They said, well, it's an appointments clause violation, so just the fact that he's in this position is enough. We don't actually have to show an injury because it's an illegal appointment, which is a de facto injury. They say, no. Look, we go back to cases and controversies, okay, arising under Article 3. That's what this jurisdiction of this court is about. An appointments clause claimed, brought by Tisch and the others, requires an actual cognizable injury. Here, the blue states' standing is premised solely based on alleged financial and programmatic harms and unauthorized access to the state's private data. But the states failed to show any actual injury at all. Like, that's what they claim. But there is no financial harm. There is no programmatic harm. There is no access to or disclosure of any private data. So it's like that. They got to show it. And none of what they're alleging is even traceable to Trump or Elon at all. And even if it was, none of it's redressable by the court. Like, you can't do anything to fix this anyways. And here's why. For starters, the states say that there's an appointment clause exception to the cases or controversy requirement of Article 3, right? So the courts just can't hear anything. The Constitution says you guys can hear matters that are cases or controversies, right? And I think they're going to give us maybe some specific language. But if it is that, right, it can't be like just like you're bored and you're suing each other, or maybe you need some sort of dispute over like a border or something, right? Whatever it is, there's certain cases or certain types of matters they cannot hear. It's just not the right forum for the courts. That is so, they assert, because harm is presumed. But there is no exception to this. Like, you've got to actually have harm. This is a standing. We spent a lot of time on this back in 2020. Now, the specific standing requirements are an essential part of the case or controversy requirement. It's a bedrock constitutional principle. The DC Circuit has the traditional injury requirement to talk about appointments clause. Thus, the states must show that there was an actual injury, some sort of a concrete harm. Now, none of the cases the states cite support some sort of an exception to this. And two of those cases don't even address standing, which they've ignored. So they go back, they got a 2020 case, a 2000 case. At most, they're trying to talk about appointed officers when somebody was unlawfully appointed, but that was a direct injury. So across the board, Article 3 applies, okay? It has to be an actual case or controversy, and that means there has to be some sort of a harm. Here, they must show there was a concrete attributable harm. It wasn't some sort of speculative case where the courts just come in and they just kind of sit around and play what's if, like make-believe. Well, if that happened, then it's not this. It's got to be limited to very specific things. Turning to the state's alleged injuries, it becomes pretty clear why they don't even want to talk about Article 3 in the first place. Foremost, they point out that the federal government disperses billions of dollars directly to states to support law enforcement, healthcare, and many other programs, and that Trump have tried to use their power to stop those payments. The states say, again, if, right? The states say if the federal government were to cease its obligations to the state, then they'll be harmed. And if they do, they'll feel it. Now, the states also suggest that hiring freezes and workforce reductions and more will cause delays and other problems. Now, these speculative assertions of harm, which are contingent upon future action by some unnamed actors, are plainly insufficient. Okay, you can't just make up something that might happen if these people do something, some other people sometime somewhere in the future. Saying that you may or even will be injured if certain events occur is way too speculative to be imminent harm to cause standing. And this is the same principle that can be applied to many other TROs and other lawsuits that have been brought by the unions or whomever is bringing them. And that's no basis for adjusting the rule here. Indeed, the purported injuries in the declarations by the states have submitted their definitionally contingent and speculative, like even in their own documents. 14 dumb blue states. Take the declaration of this guy, Wayne. He's the cabinet secretary for New Mexico. They say the Secretary Wayne, he wrote in his thing, and he's probably working right next door to Lujan. They're like, oh yeah, we understand the Constitution. You can cancel it with an executive order. Great, it's a great idea. Great. Passing sticky notes to each other. Secretary Will states that he expects, so I expect this is going to happen. Okay, well, did it happen or not? That the actions of DOGE will adversely impact New Mexico because we'll lose our money. If DOGE, right, again, his words, if DOGE causes any delay, if existing programs are canceled, paragraph 15, if federal government fails to provide its current obligation, 17. The other declarations are also speculative, okay? They went to Catherine K.D. Chapman. Again, she can't help herself. If the actions of DOGE cancel, it's going to be a problem. Jeffrey Beckham, noting potential adverse impacts. Potential impact. Got a little clever there. Here's another one from Mariana. She said, well, I expect the actions of DOGE to adversely impact the state. Hasn't happened yet. Similar here from Sarita. Danielle Gilliam. If DOGE reduces the workforce, we're going to be in trouble. So like the allegations, all of these injuries are contingent on future possibilities that cannot occur. So then the states try something else. Taking a different tack, they then contend that they are harmed. So, if that's not injury enough, we are harmed when agencies decide to reduce their enforcement activities or stop providing educational resources, citing some other cases. But those allegations are even worse. Those are even less of an injury. Okay, for one, those are even more indirect and even more speculative. They're also based on the possible failure to enforce that may someday affect the states. It's all speculative. They say, by the way, we have the power to do this. States lack standing to contest the policies of the prosecutory authority. It's up to the federal executive branch to decide how to pursue legal actions. But those indirect effects are not Article 3 injuries, lest every state would have standing to challenge virtually every federal act, right? If you don't like the policy changes of the executive branch, then every single state would sue and say, I don't like it every time. So that's not what you get to sue over. You have to have an injury upon which you have the right to be remedied that can be redressable under the law. The state's only allegation of harm that has already occurred is a single statement. They say Trump has halted payments from USAID to public universities, including to their states. So U.S. foreign money was going back to public universities, of course. So to be sure, a financial harm of that type could support Article 3 standing, like if there is actual harm there, right? And that's what we're looking for, something specific. What is it? But the states offer nothing more than an unadorned, the defendant harmed me accusation. That's all they say. Well, we're harmed because the payments got cut off. Okay, how, where, what was the money, where'd it go, what's the harm? In fact, not even that much. The basis for this statement was some woman called Leslie. She's from Washington. She said that the suspension or stop work orders from USAID or the prime award recipients, it came from USAID, not from these defendants. Okay, so it came from Rubio and the State Department. It didn't come from Elon or Trump. So why are they suing Elon? They're upset about Elon to stop him, but he wasn't even involved in that. Accordingly, even if the states suffered some harm from the USAID funds, by their own account, it's not even traceable to Elon, as opposed to the independent acts of those at USAID, right? The independent source theory for these cancellation. So none of that supports anything that they're alleging here. Elon's not responsible for this. So they wanted a temporary restraining order to stop Elon and throw him out. They relied on several cases holding that a loss of federal funding is sufficient for an injury so they can sue. But that reliance is misplaced. It's each case involved that they're citing a non-speculative direct impact. So all the cases that they're referencing, it's like they were harmed. This one was Biden versus Nebraska. Student loan payments created a direct harm to the states because they owed $1 billion in loans when they waived those off. Other cases, right? Here, none of the statements that they're suing about showed any loss of federal funding was caused by Elon. So then they turned to private data. They're like, well, if he touches our data, then we're going to die. So their other injury is saying that Elon accessed the state data, so the blue states, that was housed in the IT systems. They say, well, he accessed it. That's bad for us. So they submitted 2 declarations, Connecticut and Arizona. Sorry, we have a real problem with our governor and attorney general here, but we're going to remedy that come this next election. So they say, Elon can't touch anything. In addition, Michigan, Jocelyn Benson and the rest of them up there, and Washington's also claimed data harms because they could look at some data. But the states don't have standing to bring an action against the federal government on this basis. So that leaves New Mexico. They state that we give data to Treasury and Transportation, and this data, if you access it, it's unauthorized, saying that their factual allegations aren't even supporting their claims, though. As to access, the state's own allegations support that the data access decisions were authorized by the officials, right? So it's not Elon got access to it. Secretary Scott Bessent granted access to that because he is the secretary of the entire Treasury Department. Bunch of citations here saying that everybody is taking all the necessary steps to ensure that the appropriate people have access. Now, as to disclosure, and we covered this, I think, earlier or later last week, as to the disclosure, the states nowhere allege that any non-public data has been transferred to third parties outside the government. And I think this was speculative about maybe the FBI. There was another case we covered. You can't access our data because you might disclose it. It's too speculative. Has it been disclosed? No. They identified Mr. Big Balls, we think, who was speculative or speculated to have been the person who may be behind it, but there was no evidence of that at all. In fact, he resigned. Instead, the states appear to mean that individuals associated with DOGE have been granted access. As another court recognized, though, DOGE team members are federal government employees. They have a need for the data. They're doing their jobs. This was this case maybe that we covered. Denied a TRO because they're not going to win. The state's argument is that this access and disclosure causes them injury, but the type of access that they allege does not alone give rise to an actual concrete harm. There is no standing here. Disclosure of private information may be harmful, but for the states to show that, it needs to be more than just access to the information, okay? It actually has to be disclosure, like public disclosure. That would be an invasion of your privacy rights. But the states do not allege that there has been a public disclosure. In fact, at most, they say there's been an external exchange internally in the federal government. So wait, government employees who are authorized to see it or exchanging information, that's them doing their job. Now, again, the states do not even allege that anyone affiliated with Mr. Musk, DOGE, or anything related to DOGE has disclosed any information at all, much less causing harm. Even New Mexico acknowledges there has been no public disclosure of its data. They said, if this sensitive data is compromised, blah, blah, blah. If it wasn't disclosed, okay, several ifs. So it hasn't been disclosed. So they want a temporary restraining order. They analogize their claim to like that of a data breach. They say, well, this could be a targeted hack or like an intra-company disclosure. But that factor is lacking here. Whether it was compromised, right? Whether there was a targeted attack, these people have lawful access to it. Now, aside from mere access to sensitive data, the state offers 3 other theories of injury. They say that increasing the number of people with access to the system makes it more secure, so there's more opportunities to be hacked. But again, that's too speculative. They also say that their citizens are afraid. But as already stated, you don't get to bring cases parens patriae on behalf of your constituents who are afraid. If they have an injury, then they can go bring a claim. Third, the states also say that our sovereign interests are harmed because like nuclear safety risks and other things. But it's unclear why the states think that mere access to data increases their nuclear safety risks. Instead, they invoke special solitude for standing. But that doctrine's pretty narrow, and so they can't use that to get in here. And so, with all that being said, this claim needs to be dismissed. DC courts, get rid of it. The Appointments Clause of the Constitution prescribes the methods for appointing the officers under Article 2, Section 2, Clause 2. Principal officers must be appointed by the President and confirmed by the Senate. Inferior officers may be appointed by the President alone, the courts of law, or heads of the executives. Individuals are officers and thus must receive a constitutional appointment when they occupy a continuing position that is vested with the authority to exercise significant authority pursuant to the laws of the United States. We spent a ton of time on this with Jack Smith, right? He was not a real boy. He was an individual who was acting like an officer who did exercise significant authority, actually indicted people and signed motions. Trump, twice. Didn't report to anybody. Existed as a special counsel without a presidential appointment or Senate confirmation. So he was illegal. Elon's not doing that. Elon is just communicating and passing ideas around. If somebody else wants to execute on that, they can. Federal employees who do not meet these criteria need not be selected in compliance with the strict requirements of Article 2. Okay, so Elon is not in either of those positions as a principal officer or as an inferior officer. Here, they do not even plausibly allege an Appointments Clause violation because nowhere do they identify any office that he's wielding power over. What office is he in? As their own allegations establish, Musk is a special government employee. He does not occupy an office of the United States. Those concessions from them end this case. The blue state's remaining allegations are entirely consistent with the idea that Mr. Musk influenced other government officials, and their authority is not challenged at all. Scott Bessent wants to go wild and cut everything, or Marco Rubio does, go wild. To take this certain, it's no different than if somebody on the internet posted something and Elon and Marco's like, well, it's a great idea. To take certain decisions of which the states disagree. But even if Mr. Musk could have said to have directed these decisions, as the state alleged, even that's not an Appointments Clause violation, so long as a duly authorized agency official is the person actually acting, then the Appointments Clause is satisfied. And so this is how it works. The Appointments Clause governs formal, not colloquial power. And where someone does not occupy an office equipped with actual authority, he cannot be an officer of the United States. An advisor does not become an officer simply because the officer listens to the advice. Once you remove that premise, the state's entire constitutional claim collapses, and this claim should be dismissed. Now, if you want to challenge the Appointments Clause, there has to be an office. To state an Appointments Clause violation, the threshold trigger is a governmental position that is established by law. Once the position is identified, like we saw with Jack, Office of Special Counsel, he's appointed, Merrick Garland wrote that whole stupid thing out. Courts can then analyze whether the authority is imbued in that position. What do you do? Jack Smith was prosecuting people. Oh, this is the power delegated to that person. Where the office identified does not reflect a continuing position, the Appointments Clause cares not a whit about the person who is named to the post. Now, these cases, as they reflect, it's about de jure authority, not de facto authority that a person wields as a matter of law. Now, the states are not identifying any office that Elon is in. In fact, to the contrary, they even admit in their own complaint suing Elon that he does not occupy an office. They're like, well, he should. Well, he doesn't. That allegation alone ends their Appointments Clause challenge. The clause is concerned with the formal powers vested in an office by law, not in an individual's perceived informal influence. But the states concede he's not even in an office. So their argument fundamentally misunderstands the Appointments Clause. On their view, the court's focus should not be on the powers imbued in the office a person occupies, but on whether the particular person has wielded power. But that conflates formal authority with informal influence, which is hard and soft power. Nobody thinks, for instance, that the White House Chief of Staff or White House counsel are officers in any fashion, despite the fact they exercise tremendous influence across the government. This is because they do not occupy a position that is equipped with any formal authority. And without that formal authority, there is nothing that implicates the Appointments Clause. Now, unsurprisingly, these blue states cite no case even suggesting the Appointments Clause turns on any analysis of how that official wields their power. It's not how it works. In fact, in every case they cite establishes the opposite. The analysis turns on the formal authority that's imbued in the position. And even the states acknowledge that what matters is whether a position constitutes an office, and it's based on what powers a person formally wields. Now, besides having no basis in the law, there is also nothing to recommend the state's functional approach as a practical matter. If the states would have it their way, the constitutional analysis here would be all about de facto power. But it cannot, for instance, be that a chief of staff is an officer in some administrations where they do a good job, but mere advisors in others, right? How do you determine? Like, you need a document to delegate and transfer the authority. You just decide that Rahm Emanuel was a good chief of staff, so he's more like an officer, but someone else like Biden's chief of staff is not because they were terrible. If the states seek to rely on the duties of the DOGE administrator as a predicate to challenge the appointment clause, that also fails. By the way, the states aren't even alleging that Musk is the DOGE administrator. That's not what they're saying. But even if we just said he was, regardless, the actual duties of the DOGE administrator do not make it an office subject to the appointments clause. The executive orders creating that position delegate no significant formal authority to DOGE. Most of the duties that Trump signed are purely consultative. Final authority resides with the agency head. These are just ideas being spread around. It's telling us what all of the EOs say. The only formal duty that the executive orders assign to DOGE is to commence a software modernization initiative to improve government software, network infrastructure, and IT systems. That's all. And to work with agency heads to promote efficient data integrity and sharing. That's not prosecuting anybody like Jack Smith was doing. It's not issuing subpoenas. But even that duty does not include formal authority over anyone. In short, it's administrative. It's a far cry from any significant authorities that other courts have created an office. Say, that's an office. That's executive power. You're doing something that is acting like an office. So you can't do that. That's basically what Jack Smith was doing. That's why the judge in Florida, Eileen Cannon, nuked him. Among the various consulting duties established by this order, the DOGE team is doing their job. They're executing a plan, but that executive order doesn't give Musk any official authority, nor does it contemplate giving anyone else final specific personnel decision authority. So the states are not citing anything, anywhere, any source of law that's granting Musk, DOGE, or anyone at DOGE with any final authority over the personnel decisions taking place. They're happening under the agency heads. Now, even if Musk functionally, quote, directed these complained of actions, they still fail. If they're unable to identify any actual authority that is possessed by Musk, then they say, well, he directed others to use their power to do it. But that's also flawed. Saying, first of all, there's binding DC precedent on this. They say the DC Circuit rejected an appointments clause challenge in another removal action based on the same theory back in 1987. Someone sued. They said, this person is not validly appointed as an officer. The court, because they were basically directing the actions that harmed them, right? So this person was ordering something to happen and it was harming me, so we're suing. The court explained that even if that were true, it's irrelevant. It does not offend the appointments clause so long as the duly appointed official has final authority. Like, if you got harmed, that stinks for you, but he was lawfully appointed and is able to do the thing. Just because you got damaged as a result of the lawful exercise of power doesn't mean you're entitled to challenge his appointment. Here, Musk does not have, and the states have cited no source showing any independent legal authority to command anyone to do anything. Musk is just talking. Accordingly, even if Musk advised, recommended, or directed even actions across multiple agencies, the actual legal authority for those is not vested in Musk. It's in the actual heads. In other words, even assuming that Musk or DOGE employees conceived of or even carried out policies to which these blue states object, there is no appointments clause violation under this. Duly appointed agency heads take official responsibility for all those actions. If they want to sue on this, they need a governmental action from someone who doesn't have the authority to do it. But everything has been done by the agencies, not Elon. Because the states don't even have a single example of that, they fail. So then they try to distinguish that case, but they're not able to do that. Mr. Musk does not have formal decision-making authority at all. And thus the political accountability for those actions lies with the individuals authorized to undertake them. Now, relatedly, the states similarly nowhere plausibly allege that these actions were not formally approved by the head of the agencies, right? If Scott Bessent does it, Marco Rubio does it, that's their prerogative. They're allowed to do that. How can it be an appointments clause violation if Marco Rubio, who was appointed by the president and confirmed by the Senate, did the thing? Many of the states say that Elon is doing it, saying that Musk has unprecedented and seemingly limited access and sweeping authority and blah, blah, blah. Now, the states still, despite all of their whining, nowhere plausibly established that Musk was the final decision maker. They didn't say that at all. They allege that acting Treasury Secretary David Labrecht did it because Musk thought it would be a good idea. They say Musk also talked about the resignation program, which was the fork in the road email. But again, they did it, not Musk. So that's not an appointments clause violation. So then they're running out of ideas, these blue states. Their remaining allegations are trying to say Elon Musk's authority, they say, are simply irrelevant to their claim. It doesn't matter how Trump has chosen to structure the relationship between his chief of staff and other advisors, including Musk. However he wants to organize that, he can. It's also not, nor is it significant that Musk has addressed the public from the Oval Office or other events. What does that matter? And Musk's statements about actions he would like the government to take in the future doesn't show he's exercising any other improper authority at all. Those statements are no different than any other presidential advisor, explaining his policy proposals for future action. None of those statements bear on the core issue here. Does Musk occupy a position under the Constitution that is established by law that makes him an officer of the United States? The states who are suing concede he does not occupy an office. So then their allegations about DOGE go even further afield. They get even wackier. For starters, even if Musk was a principal officer wielding power in violation of the appointments clause, that constitutional defect would not extend to DOGE. The states don't even allege that Musk runs DOGE. They don't even say he does. But it doesn't matter if he did or not. Even if an entity is headed by an improperly appointed officer, that does not mean that everything that happens underneath him is invalid. Courts have rejected that suggestion before. Anyway, they write. Anyway. Anyway, the allegations concerning DOGE are of the same defective mold as those involving Mr. Musk. For example, the states allege that employees at the CFPB were told not to come into the office and do any work, but they acknowledge that those instructions came from agency's acting director, Russ Vought, right? Who's allowed to do that. The states also say that Trump approved certain actions at U.S. aid, but it was also the acting leadership, right, that ultimately did it. So again, Elon's not doing anything. And though the states allege that the DOGE announced that Department of Ed contracts were terminated, the agency terminated those, not Elon. Nor do the data access decisions establish anything. The legal authority for DOGE to do that came from an executive order. He can take a look at those records. Now, the state says that an access decision was opposed by agency employees, but they never say that the access itself was unauthorized by the agency. So if a couple of employees are unhappy about it, that doesn't invalidate the access. In any case, these blue states never explain how Musk or other individuals being granted access is an example of authority that's reserved for certain officers. Now, at bottom, the states do not plausibly allege facts that support their claims at all. Of course, they insist a number of government actions were done for the wrong reasons, like Elon was pressuring them or DOGE was pressuring them. But even if that's true, it's not a violation of the appointments clause because nobody's acting outside of a lawful appointment. An advisor is not an officer. Oh, this hurts for them. Merely because he is effective. We're sorry your advisors were so crap. All right. Our advisors are better. As a final fallback, the states seem to suggest that when an advisor's suggestions are reliably taken, he wields the power of the advised. In other words, he has de facto power over the executive branch. All right. But as explained, this is fundamentally not the stuff of an appointments clause challenge. It requires some showing of actual formal authority. Thus, even assuming the truth of the allegation, there's no constitutional problem there. Indeed, across context, federal courts consistently have held that those acting in a formally advisory role, that is, those who rely on the legal authority of others to actually do the things, are not exercising significant authority. They're not officers, even when they have a significant ability to convince other people or even cajole other people to adopt their policies. You put the head of the Treasury up there to be the head of the Treasury. If the head of the Treasury doesn't want to do what Elon doesn't want to do, that person can reject it. That person is accountable to the president, was accountable through the process, through the democratic process. We elect a president via the people. He picks that person. The Senate says that person's good. If that person should be strong enough that they don't have to be protected from Elon or somebody. Okay, if Elon says this is a good idea, you should do it, and they do it, they're doing it under their authority. But the states are saying Elon's too powerful. He's commandeering all of them. Courts have long recognized the president is entitled to his choice of senior advisors who can help him execute his agenda. He doesn't have to go get approval from Congress for all of those people. Article 2 not only gives the president the ability to consult with his advisors confidentially, but also as a corollary, it gives him the flexibility to organize his advisors and seek advice from them as he wishes. Now, the president can, of course, direct duly appointed officers like his cabinet, the Senate-confirmed department heads, to do things. And in doing so, the president may choose to rely on a close advisor to identify actions for those officers to take. The president's choice to rely on such advice before making the ultimate decision does not turn an advisor into an officer. And the president can act through his advisors while taking these decisions. Now, this tracks with historical practice. Since the time of at least Andrew Jackson, presidents have created advisory groups composed of private citizens, even to meet periodically and advise them. This was the phrase kitchen cabinets. Lyndon Johnson often sought advice from both private citizens and sitting Supreme Court Justice Abe Fortas. When it came to the Vietnam War, Edward House was a close advisor to Woodrow Wilson, horrible president, for many years, serving as the president's right hand both before and after the First World War. And Wilson stated, "He was the only person in the world with whom I can discuss everything." Edward House. So he's responsible for Wilson's devastating presidency. Says likewise, when Clinton established a task force, they had little trouble, the First Circuit, the DC Circuit rather, had little trouble concluding that even Hillary was not a government official, despite her role on the task force. She was one of the president's, quote, closest advisors. Judge Buckley explained that the First Lady was not a constitutional officer. Although the spouses have provided undoubted value in advising the presidents, they're not occupying an office with duties. There's none of the indicia of a federal officer there. So under any fair term, Mrs. Clinton was not an officer of the United States. More broadly, drawing on the same principles, it's also been understood that advisory people don't wield any authority. When Congress created the Commission on the bicentennial of the Constitution, it allowed the president to appoint several officers to the commission. The structure raised constitutional concerns because members of Congress may not be appointed to any civil office under authority of the United States, Article 1, Section 2, Clause 2, to keep them separated. The Reagan administration's Department of Justice explained the practical solution to this concern would be to establish an executive committee composed of the commission's properly appointed executive officers who could approve binding regulations. The Obama administration also reaffirmed this, saying by limiting the congressional members to a purely advisory role, they would not become officers. Okay, if it's just advisory. So we're kind of playing around with the checks and balances. Obama did the same thing, reaffirmed this constitutional understanding in 2012, saying that congressional members on a similar commission could serve an advisory role to properly appointed officers. Here, the states do not dispute. Musk is the same thing. They consult and they get advice from Musk. That's it. It then goes to the constitutional officers and they do the bidding. Now, in short, the appointments clause turns exclusively on hard, not soft power, but there is no actual authority for Musk. So therefore, a dismissal of this case is warranted. Now, coming to the end in a bit, telling us the states also fail here. They have not shown that there is any office of Musk. An office is a specific phrase. It's not a continuing office. Musk is an SGE employee. That's not an office. An office is something that lasts longer in time. To be a continuing office, it also must not be particular to a specific individual. This entire complaint is saying that Musk is a special person. It's particular to him alone. They're not even objecting to an office. This does not work. Presidents have long selected advisors based on their identity alone. They can simply not be replaced by others. This is why the president has them, Musk included. One way or another, the states have failed to establish that Musk and his position falls within anything that is unlawful. They also claim that they've exceeded statutory authority, saying Section 3161 is a temporary organization. And while Musk and DOGE are named as defendants, neither of these are temporary organizations, so we're not even trying to fit into that category, so we're not violating that law. Regardless, whether limited to this or another, their theory is incorrect. This doesn't contain any private cause of action under this subsection, so they can't even sue on this. And as the DC Circuit has recognized, this is extremely limited in scope. If they want to bring a claim here, they've got to meet a very high standard and they can't do it. They can't even make it onto the playing field, let alone prevail on this Hail Mary. Oh. At the outset, the state's claim cannot even proceed past the threshold because there are alternative procedures that they can bring this case in front of, other venues. And as discussed, the complaint is barren of any plausible allegations. They have to say that Musk is actually wielding power. They haven't done that here. Musk has made clear he plans to embark on a massive and unprecedented deregulation project, they say, and all of these other things. But what is the actual power? They haven't identified it. Even excusing the absence of on-point allegations, the state also fail to show how any activity would violate their statutes. Data is necessary, and we're allowed to manage the data. Whatever policy disagreements they have with DOGE looking at data, this isn't the place to bring the claim. In support of their ultra-virus claim, like this is outside of the law, they rest entirely on the major questions doctrine. And they say this is just a tool of statutory interpretation. It's not applicable here. They can't show that they should be in this court. They're continuing to fail to state a claim. And so finally, long motion to dismiss. The states bring their appointments claim against everybody, including Trump. But the allegations are directed against Musk. And the remedy that they seek is for everything that Musk has done to be rendered invalid. In short, the states, 14 blue states, do not even allege that Trump has violated the appointments clause, let alone seek a remedy against Trump. So they have failed to establish standing, any plausible appointments clause claim, and this should all be dismissed. Now, even if you were to overlook these fatal deficiencies, court, you can't issue an injunction against President Trump. It's undisputed they sued the president in his official capacity. They sued Musk and DOGE and others. But in a similar appointments clause challenge, the plaintiffs did not even seek to sue the president. They named only Musk. So you can't limit the president. Like, they shouldn't have sued the president. They're clearly not going to be able to get an injunction against him. So why are they bringing this at all? For the foregoing reasons, the state's complaint should be dismissed. Signed here by Joshua Gardner, acting as special counsel here from the U.S. Department of Justice. Big fat motion to dismiss. Of course, this is brought in the case from the 14 blue states, including New Mexico, Arizona, and others, against Elon Musk to try to undo everything that he's done. Now, we saw that historically, the judge has already rejected, and this was Judge Tanya Chutkan, if you remember, she already rejected the state's request to get rid of Elon Musk. So we're trending in the right direction on this case, and we'll see what Judge Chutkan ultimately does. But Elon was also out, and speaking of some of the results of Elon, they posted this over the weekend saying in 2020, 2021, the SBA granted 5,500, almost 5,600 loans for a total of $312 million to borrowers whose only listed owner was 11 years old or younger at the time of the loan. Okay? 11 years old or younger. 5,600 loans, $312 million. They say it's possible to have business arrangements where this is legal. That is highly unlikely for these 5,600 loans, as they all used a social security number with the incorrect name. Oh, no. Oh, no, man. That's a lot. So DOGE, Elon, SBA, they're working to solve this problem this week. Weird. I'm sure there's an explanation for this. Probably Greta needed a couple $2 billion. So you can see that Elon was also out talking about this, and people are unhappy with Elon. They're suing him. The blue states are lecturing him. And now it sounds like even the Ukrainians are trying to take out X. Here's what Elon said about that today.
There was a cyber attack on X today, which shut it down and may have been foreign sourced. Yes. It's a big story. You want to give us a moment on that?
Well, we're not sure exactly what happened, but there was a massive cyber attack to try to bring down the X system with IP addresses originating in the Ukraine area.
Oh, the Ukraine area. Isn't that curious? The Ukraine area. Now, Elon also said this. He said there's been a lot of waste, fraud, and abuse, and we're going to get to the bottom of it. Here was Elon.
But I think we're doing the right thing here. There's been a tremendous amount of waste and fraud in the government. When you're part of the government, you saw a lot of that, and there's been, if you look at the Inspector General reports and the Government Accountability Office, there have been many audits that have pointed out that there's a tremendous amount of waste and fraud in the government. In fact, there was a report issued by the GAO, the Government Accountability Office, last year. So during the Biden administration, which estimated the federal government fraud to be $500 billion. Mm. So just to be clear, that's not a Trump administration thing, that's a Biden administration thing. So what we're trying to do is get that number down to a much smaller figure, save money for the American taxpayer, stop money being spent on things that I think very few taxpayers would agree make sense. Transgender animal surgeries, or why are we spending money? Why are American tax dollars being spent on this? The president's gone through a long list of absurd things. Why are the 20 million people who are definitely dead marked as alive in the Social Security database? Why were hundreds of millions of dollars of Small Business Administration loans were given out to people aged 11 and under, according to the Social Security? I mean, these must be some very enterprising 8-year-olds,
And some pretty strong 150-year-olds.
Yes, exactly. As the president said, we have an enormous number of people marked as alive who are 160. He didn't know the country was that healthy. Mm.
Elon Musk explaining what should be obvious, that we don't want 150-year-olds, if they're alive and they're entitled to Social Security, I'm fine with them getting it. But if they're dead, then they shouldn't be getting Social Security. So good updates there from Elon. We'll see what Judge Chutkan does. Hopefully dismisses that rapidly. And of course, we'll keep our eye on that one. But here is another very interesting story. The CBP app just got reversed. You can see Homeland Security is announcing that today, Kristi Noem, the Secretary of Homeland Security, announced we are launching the CBP Home app with a self-deportation reporting feature. It used to be like DoorDash for illegals into the country. They could just order themselves an Uber. Here I'm in Guatemala. I know Kamala was just here. She said, don't come, but I want to come. So, hey, we're just going to Biden in a minute. Biden, Uber, my family. Oh, Uber XL. Yes, we're going to need, do they have a bus? Yeah, we'll get a bus. We're taking everybody. Fill out an app. Airplane picks them up, flies them into New York or to your backyard. So they're reversing that. Now you log on to get yourself an Uber. You're going back to Mexico. Says we are giving illegal aliens the option to leave now and to self-deport so that they may still have the opportunity to return and live the American dream. But if you do not self-deport, we will remember and you will not be welcomed back. Here is what Bill Melugin posted. Said, we got a scoop on this, baby. Said the Trump administration has repurposed the controversial Biden era CBP-1 cell phone app. It is now a self-deportation app called CBP Home. Like you're going home. That launches today. DHS tells me any migrants who had the prior CBP-1 app will have it auto-update to this new update app, right? You got wake up, unplug your phone, plug it in. Everything's been updated. You'll love that feature. Now you've been identified and marked for removal. And Homeland can use the data from the prior CBP-1 registrations to track migrants for removal. So you better get moving because we can see you pinging up on the radar now. The new app allows illegal aliens and migrants in the U.S. to register with their app to self-deport. They fill out biographical info, including their countries of citizenship, which country they plan to return to, their alien registration numbers, contact info. It allows them to upload photos of themselves to confirm their ID. All of it submitted to CBP, then you can leave the country. Well, why would they want to do that, they say? Well, here's what Kristi Noem said. The Home app gives aliens the option to leave now and to self-deport so that they may still have the opportunity to return legally in the future and live the American dream. If they don't, we're going to find them, we're going to deport them, and we're going to mark your file and they will never return. The Biden administration exploited the Uber delivery DoorDash app to allow more than 1 million aliens to enter the United States on airplanes, many of them. With the launching of the Home app, we are restoring integrity to our immigration system. Kristi Noem says, it is significantly cheaper for the U.S. if an illegal alien decides to self-deport, and limited ICE resources can be used to target the criminals. Now, according to data, roughly 40 to 50,000 migrants were entering the U.S. every month via the One app. Like a stadium full of people every month, thanks to Joe. Yeah, I got the Uber XL. Did you get the upgrade? Yeah, I only drive Uber One, only. Yeah, me too. Trump terminated the program on day one of his presidency, leading to scenes of migrants crying, my Uber's not coming. I'm giving them a 1-star rating in the App Store at the border when they realized their appointments had been canceled. The Trump administration has essentially hijacked the Biden admin program, a key pillar of his immigration policy, and repurposed it for opposite effect. Free, yeah, everybody should just get a free flight, a free mystery flight. Log into the app. Congratulations, you won a free mystery flight. Go to your nearest airport. You're gonna love it. Bring your bags with you and your family. Wait till you find out where you're going. All right, so that has been repurposed. Here is what Bill Melugin had to say about this over on Fox News. He, of course, had the scoop.
Well, breaking right now, the Trump DHS is launching a new self-deportation app for illegal immigrants, giving those in the U.S. illegally an incentive to cooperate. And Bill Melugin is live in L.A. with more. Hi, Bill.
And Dana, good morning to you. So this is pretty remarkable. The Trump administration has taken that controversial CBP One cell phone app for migrants that the Biden administration was using, and they've repurposed it into a self-deportation app that is officially launching today. And we're getting an exclusive first look at it. Take a look. The app is now called CBP Home. It allows illegal aliens in the U.S. to register to self-deport. They fill out biographical information, including their countries of citizenship, which country they plan to return to, their alien registration numbers, their contact information, and it allows them to upload photos of themselves to confirm their identity. All of it is then submitted to CBP, and they leave the country. Now, you might be asking yourself, well, why would an illegal immigrant want to self-deport? Well, DHS says if they leave now, they will have the opportunity to return to the U.S. legally in the future and chase the American dream. But if they don't leave, they will be found, arrested, detained, and deported with a permanent ban on entry into the United States. In a statement to Fox News, DHS Secretary Kristi Noem said in part, quote, the Biden administration exploited the CBP One app to allow more than 1 million aliens to illegally enter the United States. With the launching of the CBP Home app, we are restoring integrity to our immigration system. If they don't self-deport, we will find them, deport them, and they will never return. The Biden administration's use of the CBP One app allowed more than 40,000 migrants to come into the U.S. at a port of entry every single month. That totaled nearly 1 million migrants by the end of his presidency. President Trump terminated that app immediately upon taking office, leading scenes like this, showing migrants dismayed at the border on the day of his inauguration as they learned their CBP One appointments were canceled and were never coming back. And DHS tells me that any migrants who had that CBP One app on their phone will see it automatically update to this new self-deportation app starting today. And DHS can also use the data from the prior CBP One registrations to track migrants for removal. So in a nutshell, Dana, Trump just took Biden's program, which was bringing migrants in, and has now totally repurposed it to get them out. We'll send it back to you.
Little judo reversal over there, right? Use the enemy's energy against them. Biden tried to use technology to facilitate it. We got all those IP addresses locked and loaded. Elon has been keeping a spreadsheet, and they're ready to rock and roll. So that was Bill Melugin. You can also see that ICE arrested 543 criminal aliens. This was in a Houston area. Week-long investigation. Bunch of folks got rounded up. Lots of crimes here. Yeah, here you go. Aggravated felonies like homicide, ag assaults, DV. Whoa, 34. Underage offenses. Yikes. Yeah, aggravated assault of a minor and possession of PDF files and all sorts of other things. 38 criminal aliens. Firearms crimes. 52 illicit narcotics. 93 DUI, common one. 51 property crimes, burglary and theft. Round them up and deport them or indict them and arrest them, but get them off the streets. Bill Melugin, of course, reporting on that. Now, Tom Homan was also asked about this. We've got Jasmine Crockett who really doesn't understand the Constitution or the United States statutes. And I do believe we had a clip of her somewhere, which you probably will be okay if we avoid. But here's Tom Homan responding to Jasmine Crockett, who says that it's not illegal to enter the country illegally.
Is it a crime or a misdemeanor to enter the country illegally?
It's a crime to enter the country illegally on Title 8, United States Code 1325, and it's really pathetic that any member of Congress don't understand what the law says. They wrote the law. They enacted the law. It was signed by the president. It's a criminal violation to enter the country illegally. If you've entered it prior, it's a felony. So, I've been saying this for I don't know how long on your show, and I had to educate AOC years ago during the hearing that it's a crime to enter this country illegally, and we're going to enforce those laws.
Is it a crime or a misdemeanor?
What the law is. Jasmine Crockett still won't get it. She calls herself an attorney, but doesn't understand how criminal law works. Now, J.D. Vance also got asked about this. He was giving a speech, and a heckler chimed in to try to deviate the vice president. Here's what happened.
You go across the world, and you see a very consistent relationship between a massive increase in immigration and a massive increase in housing prices. And we have to be honest about that. Well, I see one of our nice representatives out here wants to actually, I guess, continue to flood the country with illegal immigrants, making your communities and citizens unaffordable. But ma'am, with all respect, one of the reasons why we're doing what we're doing is because we want to make it more affordable for Americans to live. That is one of the reasons why we're doing what we're doing.
Thank you, JD. And I think some Democrats do want that because they realize that illegal aliens get converted into Democrats, which is exactly what they want. Now, Kristi Noem was out, a couple of clips from her. She was on with Will Cain this afternoon and was explaining about these leakers. Apparently there are folks in Homeland, FBI, and other agencies that are detailing and revealing to the public the contents of the investigation, giving forewarnings to criminals before the raids occur. Here's what Kristi Noem said about it.
Well, I won't talk about each specific case, but what I will tell you is that we have been utilizing polygraphs for 3 weeks now, and that we do have 2 DHS employees that are on administrative leave, and they're going to be facing consequences for what they've done to leak these operations. So they could face up to 10 years in federal prison for what they've done. And what they've done is by leaking the information on these ops is they've put law enforcement lives in jeopardy. So we've got a lot of tools. I've got a lot of authorities under DHS. I'm going to use every single one of them to stop these leakers and make sure that they face significant consequences for what they're doing. They're jeopardizing our national security. They're hurting the lives of people who are just trying to enforce the law. And so I'm thankful that we've talked about these 2, but I've got several more that will be revealed here soon. And I hope they're an example to everybody else within this federal government that President Trump is enforcing the law. For the first time, we have a president that cares what the laws are in this country, and he's going to enforce them. And he's giving us the tools that we need to make sure that we can follow through on it and people face consequences who break the law.
Really quickly, as a couple of follow-ups, how many more do you expect you'll be announcing that you've found out were leaking these plans?
We've got 2 or 3 more that I think within the next week we'll be able to announce. But, these are all cases and they're criminal cases. And we're working through how our processes work with employees within the Department of Homeland Security. But, Will, I think every cabinet member is being very aggressive on this. But in the Department of Homeland Security, this is a life or death thing that they're doing by jeopardizing these operations out there on the ground of ICE law enforcement, and not just the ICE individuals. We partner every day with other agencies, with the FBI, the Department of Justice, with local law enforcement, state law enforcement. They're jeopardizing all of those individuals when they go out there and compromise this information.
Yeah, it's kind of sick that you would even be doing that to colleagues in your own agency, right? You're like, yeah, Rob's going to be leading that raid. So tell everybody Rob's coming. What? Trying to get me killed, son? All right, so that's Kristi Noem. So we also had her. She went out. She was on with Margaret Brennan. I really don't care, Margaret, about your whining. But here is what Kristi Noem said on her show.
The administration has revived this policy of detaining migrant families, parents with children, in ICE detention centers. Bush did it, Obama did it, Biden did not. Have you seen these Texas facilities where children are being held with their parents? Are you comfortable with it personally?
We've got detention facilities across the country, and there's specific ones that are built specifically for families if they are detained. But remember, everybody has an option. They have an option to be here legally or illegally, and they can self-deport as well. We've set up a system and a website where people who are here illegally right now can register, and they can choose to go home on their own and keep their families united. Well, the kids do have a choice. If they have parents, they make a choice to keep their families together if they want to, or not. If parents make a decision to leave their children behind, then that's a choice that they made as a family. And we need to remember that when Americans break the law and they have consequences or face a situation, they're separated from their families too. I don't believe we should prioritize people from other countries above Americans.
But when it comes to reviving the policy of separating families from their children at the border,
we're actually reviving it. It's
That's what I want to
ask. President Biden didn't follow the law. he didn't follow the law in the fact that it's always been equally applied until his administration. And then he made decisions to ignore federal law in how he handled immigration and enforcement within our borders. And so,
Kristi Noem, and this is a dumb line. Well, if you arrest an illegal, then you're separating them from their family. You say, well, that's what happens to anybody who goes to prison in America. Okay, you get arrested, you don't get to bring your kids with you in custody. So Margaret, still trying to figure out how that works. Thankfully, Kristi Noem and the Trump administration have reversed the app, and the Uber into the country is now Uber out of the country. And that's good news. Now, very short update on this one. Then we're going to hear from you. But this is some good news. Revoked security clearances go out to some of the worst, and they deserve this and more, hopefully coming soon in the form of indictments. You can see Tulsi Gabbard, the director of national intelligence, dropped this one saying that per the presidential directive, I have revoked security clearances and barred access to classified information for Anthony Blinken, Biden's Secretary of State. You remember him. Jake Sullivan, Hillary Clinton's senior advisor and Joe Biden's national security advisor. And he's super smart because he went to Oxford, if you recall. And Jake Sullivan, of course, was the promoter of the Russia collusion hoax back in the 2016 election. He was the one who posted that on X saying that Trump was colluding with the Russians, all fake. Lisa Monaco, the Department of Justice second in charge, who of course was under Merrick Garland in the Biden administration. Mark Zaid, lawyer. Norm Eisen, lawyer. And they're, in my opinion, heavily invested in anti-Trump, anti-Republican litigation. We've got Tish James, Letitia, with the stinkiest feet you've ever smelled, according to Alina Abba, because she would take her shoes off in court. Letitia James, in a courtroom, take her shoes off and sit her Tish right back in the pews behind the bar. Alvin Bragg, basically everything I said about Letitia. And Andrew Weissman. Oh, yes. A lot of these people invested in stopping Trump no matter what. Weissman on MSNBC repeatedly, making your ears bleed. Along with 51 signers of the Hunter Biden disinformation letter, all of them got revoked, saying the president's daily brief is no longer being provided to Joe Biden either. All canceled. No access to these materials, and that is good news. Now, it's not just shoring up the data in this arena. We also fired more career officials. Reuters reporting new people are gone. Trump on Friday fired at least 2 senior career officials at the DOJ, including the head of the office that handles the pardon requests. Liz Oyer, she was a pardon attorney since 2022, a career Justice Department position. Oyer was fired, quote, effective immediately. She shared a memo over on LinkedIn. I guess I got fired too. Cited Trump's executive authority. Her former office reviews requests for clemency from people convicted of federal offenses and made recommendations on it. Yeah. Curious as to maybe they found something about her and Biden's final pardons. Why did you pardon all these murderers? Bobak Talabian also is the head of the Justice Department's Office of Information Policy, handles public records requests under FOIA. That man or woman or whatever was also fired. The move marks the latest instance of Trump booting these people. DOJ spokesperson did not immediately respond to comment. Trump appointed officials previously reassigned several veteran national security and criminal prosecutors to a newly created immigration office. The top career ethics official also left the Justice Department after another reassignment. So he's saying you're no longer going to be in your like J6 prosecutorial position. If you want to still be at the Justice Department, you can go work immigration. They say, I'm not a bigot, so I'm resigning. Good, get out. About 8 senior career FBI officials were also forced out ahead of the confirmation by Cash. Justice Department leaders have not given a lot of reasons for the dismissals, but they're gone. So good riddance to them. We also see Marco Rubio explained, after a 6-week review, we are officially canceling 83% of the programs at USAID. So the house cleaning continues. The 5,200 contracts that are now canceled spent tens of billions of dollars in ways that did not serve and in some ways even harmed the core national interest of the United States. Now, in consultation with Congress, we intend for the remaining 18% of these programs that we're keeping, approximately 1,000 of them, to now be administered more effectively under the State Department. Thank you to DOGE and our hardworking staff and the people who worked very long hours to achieve this overdue and historic reform. Musk says, tough but necessary. Good working with you. The important parts of USAID should always have been with the Department of State. So you don't need to do that here. Now, the researcher, a great person to follow, by the way, highly recommend you give her a follow, at listen_to_learn, has been keeping the pressure on Norm Eisen and these people, saying, time to indict them or ban them. If we had a real AG, Norm would be prosecuted. Hopefully we do have one. We're still waiting for more from Pam Bondi. But Scott Bessent also shared an update, said today we also took an important step towards implementing President Trump's mandate to get the government back in office. Here is the message that Secretary of Treasury Scott Bessent shared with all of the Treasury employees today. This got sent out and dropped in their inbox. Says, dear colleagues, as you know, today marks the first day of our phase 1 return to office. As we transition back fully to the office, I want to take a moment and welcome you. I look forward to seeing our team coming together again, and I truly believe that our teamwork and creativity thrive when we are in person. Together, we can create a welcoming environment that fosters collaboration and innovation. I would also like to thank those of you who are in positions that have always required you to be on site full time. Your commitment and dedication to maintaining our operations have been invaluable as part of our return to office efforts. And as I mentioned during my town hall, we will be making improvements to our vault, cafe, and gym here at the main Treasury. 80% of the Treasury employees just had a meltdown. A gym? They feel personally attacked. Be on the lookout for additional communications and regarding the increased menu offerings. And don't even think you're getting a seed oil in your lunch ever again. No more French fries for you, unless they're in beef tallow. Be on the lookout about this and about additional equipment in our gym. We're all going to be so friggin' healthy. It's going to be great. Thank you for all your hard work and dedication. I look forward to seeing you all and to all great things we will accomplish together. Sincerely, Scott Bessent. And we're going to see you at the morning yoga. And we're doing burpees. Anybody who's late, 1 burpee for every minute late. Amazing. Good to see you, Scott Bessent. Dropping in a get back to work message. Now, we also saw that the president's director of the OMB is pushing on Congress to deliver this continuing resolution so that we can continue to fund the government for the foreseeable future. Here was that conversation.
I'm confident that it's going to pass the House. It's going to pass the Senate. All that we put forward is a freeze, a continuing resolution to allow the momentum that is ongoing with DOGE and all of the work, the audit that you essentially articulated in your opener, to go on. And we've never seen a momentum like this. We've never seen what you're seeing with the energy and the ingenuity of a new administration coming on board and finding every crevice of waste, fraud, and abuse, of all the things that are weaponized against the American people. And I think the country wants to see that go forward, and a government shutdown in this moment would impact that adversely. And I think we're going to be able to see Congress vote that out in the next few days.
All right, so a lot of stuff happening, obviously. We've got security clearances being revoked, DOGE folks being fired. We've got Marco Rubio canceling USAID contracts, and the Treasury Department employees are going to get back on treadmills now. Good news for everybody. And we've got Congress needing to pass and keep the money flowing. So we'll be here continuing to cover this and more. Thanks for subscribing and joining as we do. All right, my friends, it has been a heck of a stream. If you're just joining us, we were hoping we were going to hear from President Trump today But apparently that is not happening. You can see the president was going to be signing some executive orders today and maybe even holding a ceremonial swearing in. But apparently that is not happening. So we didn't miss anything in that arena. But we did cover some good ground. We talked about Elon and the Department of Justice filing a motion to dismiss against 14 blue states, like the state of New Mexico and Arizona and others, saying that they didn't even really plead a good complaint. Like they have no harm. They're using if statements all over the place. It's all speculative. They don't understand the Constitution, and they're basically pathetic. So Chutkin, you have to dismiss it. And if I had to guess, I think that she would. She's already denied them their TRO. So we'll see what she does on this one. But good updates there. We read through what the latest is on the CBP Uber app. It was being used by illegals and Democrats to Uber in illegal aliens into our country. Now it's being used to Uber them out. And we read through what the latest is on that. Heard from Kristi Noem before we got to the revocations of security clearances for some of the worst people in the country. And we're grateful that Tulsi Gabbard got that done. But now, my friends, it's time to hear from you. And let's see what you say about all of this. It is a beautiful Monday. I hope your weekend was amazing and you're returning feeling restored, rejuvenated, and ready to go on the week. Let's see who's joining us today and who's here. We got Sheila Poo. What's up? What's up, Donuts? Clipping for us. Thank you, Donut. And we got John in the house. It is a beautiful Monday. There's the yawning kitty. Thank you, Donut, for that one. Benjamin, what's up, Benjamin? Thanks for becoming a supporter. Grab the members only stream. We had a great members only stream this morning. Membos, check that one out. And we'll be back tomorrow. Hey, Membos, tomorrow. We're 1 hour earlier tomorrow. 11 a.m. Eastern is the time for the Membo stream tomorrow. Tara Rayner says, I love Trump, but my country, Canada, is already effed. I think that's pretty true. But there is a way to save your country by becoming and joining America. So tell your friends. Cliff Norman, Rob, it was reported today that we have taxpayer sabotage supported NGOs advising illegals on how to break immigration laws. Can they be charged as an accomplice to a crime? If lawyers can be disbarred, then can they be disbarred and then indicted? Yeah, I think it's just a matter of, context and conduct, really. What did they do? Like if they're advising them in accordance with the law, then they're in alignment with the law, right? They're just advising people. But if they're facilitating human trafficking, yeah, that's obviously a crime. So it kind of depends, I think, on who's doing what and how far it goes. But I would suspect that there is a lot of criminality in there. And it may not even be the crime of moving people, per se. Like maybe it's not human trafficking, but it might be financial crimes. Like where's this money going? What do the contracts look like with the government? Maybe they can be indicted for fraud and tax crimes in addition to the actual crimes. So I think it's a matter of scale, right? What are they doing? How far did they go? I'm sure there are some people doing it legally. There are some people doing it illegally. But I would imagine there is a lot of criminality that has not been discovered yet. Hey, what's up, NY? This lawsuit comports with the document with the Democrat religious ideology. The next lawsuit we can expect from these 14 states is to sue Trump for not being a Democrat. It's ridiculous. It's like a hissy fit in a legal complaint. We don't like Elon. We don't know what we're doing or complaining about, but we have to complain. And we're going to sue in D.C., so it doesn't matter because we think we're going to win anyways. It's like pathetic. Like, how did 14 state attorney generals come up with this? Even Chutkin's like, you guys are dumb. Ed, what's up, Ed? Says the government said you should not look at the merits. Even if the government claims the states lack standing, is it ever a good idea to say, ignore my strong merits argument? What if the court does find standing? Well, I think that's why they spent all the rest of the time. Like it wasn't they went into it. I mean, I think they went into a lot of it. They talked about, it wasn't just standing, right? They went in, they talked about the statutory claims. They say so they're bringing a constitutional claim. They're bringing a statutory claim. They say they've got other rights to bring this claim under these other statutes. But they, even under that, right? So they explored, it's like a mind map with branches, like a decision tree almost. If this, then that, if this, then that. And you kind of spread it out. That's why that motion to dismiss was so long, is because they were exploring all of those different branches. Don't look at it on the merits, but what are the merits? What's the harm? What is Elon doing? Even if this cuts off, here's the declaration. And we really got a lot of detail in it. But they said that it's generally not a good idea to tell the courts not to look at things, right? Or to say you don't have jurisdiction over certain things. We saw that last week in the opinion. I think it was from Colleen Kotalar Kelly, that judge, whatever that name was. But she said, I definitely have jurisdiction. I definitely can do all of this. Trump wins anyways, but right, courts don't like to be told they can't hear things or do certain things, because generally they can. Rob, what's up? I was saying they send a message on the CBP app to tell all to go to the nearest police station, collect $2,000. Go directly to jail. Do not pass go. Do not collect $2,000. Get deported immediately. Yeah, your surprise vacation. No, you're going to go on a cruise. Everybody's going on a cruise. Just go to LA. Make your way to LA. You're going to get on a cruise boat. It's going to be great. It's going to hold 14 million people. Rob Stoops, Michigan Patriot. What's up, Rob Stoops? Says, if the federal government can cut off funding for a state, what makes a judge think you can make federal government pay another country? Yeah. We're going to get into a lot of this, I think. I mean, right now, like, we're in the cutting phase, but there will be a battle over impoundment, right? Over impoundment of funds. So yes, Rubio cut 83% of that money. But does he, like, where does that money go? It's already been appropriated and spent, essentially. So, like, are we getting that back? If Congress comes and rescinds those funds, that's a different situation. But does anybody expect that to happen at all? No. So I think the money will be spent. It will just be put to good use, not for trans helicopter parties in South Africa, whatever. So what's up, Rick Donner? There we go. Sean Curran, officially sworn in as director of the U.S. Secret Service. Was that not being broadcast anywhere? How did we miss that? Thank you, Rick Donner. What's up, Mike Newcomb? Here, maybe that was, let me just click that real quick. Guess maybe it was closed session. Here's what that looked like. We were trying to get this live.
That I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States.
That I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States.
Against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
Against all enemies, foreign.
Sounds like one camera. So not a lot of media in there.
I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same.
That I take this obligation freely.
That I take this obligation freely.
Without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion.
Without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion.
That I will well and faithfully.
That I will well and faithfully.
Discharge the duties of this office.
Discharge the duties of this office.
Of which I am about to enter.
Of which I am about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
All right. Man, and that dude looks like he can stand on sloped roofs. No sloped roofs problems on that one. All right, so we were trying to catch that live, but apparently that wasn't going to happen. Thank you, Rick D, for that. Mike Newcomb. What's up, Mike Newcomb? Great to see you. Thanks for joining and becoming a supporter. Hey, Queen Bee's Art Hive. 16 months as a member, coming up on 2 full babies. Says, I love y'all. Rob, you rock. Thank you. Thank you back, Queen Bee's Art Hive. Thanks for being here for 16 months. Spuds is here. Rob, by the state's admission, then any advice Hillary gave Bill during his terms and acted upon could be challenged, even though he referred to her as co-president. She pushed policy, but she was not appointed. Exactly. Yeah, or what was Jill Biden doing with Joe? I think you could say the same thing about first ladies anywhere. I mean, like, wouldn't you expect the husband to talk to the wife before doing certain things? She probably introduced, a ton of influence, maybe not as explicit like as Elon, but you don't cross Melania. You don't cross Hillary Clinton if you're in the cabinet, obviously, right? It's like, what? It's the president's wife, dude. What are you doing? All right, Sheila Pooh, 13 months as a membo. Thank you, Sheila, for this. Love you all. Me too. Thanks for all you do, Rob. Thank you, Sheila Pooh. Thanks for all you do, for being a membo, supporting us, bringing in many new membos. A million hugs to you. Sheila bringing in 5 more membos. Just Cause, what's up? Wes Downer, that girl, Eagle 80, and Carlos Land Dieta, all gifted membos, courtesy of Sheila Poo. A million hugs to you. Thank you, Sheila, for doing that. Hey, it's the Munkets. Tony Hay Munkets, bringing in 10 new friends. Thank you, Tony Hay. Terry Garrett, welcome. Devin McLevy. We got Lesko Gadsden. We got Tony Hogan, Clinton Griffin, Bill Watkins, Kiska Hamblin. Just Rhonda shouting out the new membos. And you should check out her YouTube channel, Just Rhonda. Brian Atkins, George Wolf, all gifted membos, courtesy of Tony Hay Munkets. Hey, it's the Munkets. What's going on? Stephen Mosher says they're not marked alive. They're just unreported dead. Oh, that's true. That's very smart bureaucracying right there. No. They're just unreported dead. And I should get a bonus for that label. You should. You're here forever. Thank you for that, Stephen Mosher. Sounds like government accounting. Hey, More Here is bringing in 5 more membos here. Grandma's Grind is coming in. Corrections 101. What's up, Scott Pettypost? We got Star Walker. And all of us are happy about our 5 new friends. And thank you for bringing them in. More Here. Bringing in 5 more here. Hey, chat with me. Rob, would the government shutdown be a bad thing? It would pause many offices, giving both DOGE and the new cabinet secretaries time to further investigate the departments. Right now, two Republicans are publicly saying they won't vote for the bill, even though Trump backs it. Yeah, and I think that's probably okay. So like Rand Paul, well, I don't know what the vote is. It just simple majority in both houses to pass the CR? Is that all it is? Simple majority? Because we have a little bit of a margin in both houses. So I think I saw Mike Johnson says he thinks it'll pass. So is it a bad thing? I mean, ordinarily I would say no. Like if the government is in bulk mode, which it normally is, then it's not a bad thing. Like you got to stop bulking. Okay. You've been bulking for 200 years now. Stop it. You're getting chunky. Stop it. So in that phase, I think a shutdown is okay but you know, we're in cutting phase right now. It's like we're cutting calories right now. So we got to go, get up. Let's go, get up, put it down, get up, pick it up again, put it down, pick it up again. So shutting it down right now might impede that cut. So it might be bad. Sheila the Pooh, 5 more membos. Thank you, Sheila, for this. What's up? Steve Guardian is coming in. Graham in New York City. What's up, Graminy? I am Divine Creation. Welcome. Haversham and Shoes, all gifted membos, courtesy of Sheila Pooh. A million hugs to you. Thank you, Sheila the Pooh, bringing in 5 new membos. Hey, Rick Donner is here. Says, did you guys see this? Nancy Pelosi's vehicle was spotted outside of a local Target store. There it is. It's a broom. Get it? Because she's a witch. What's going on, Rick D? Says, I was late tonight. I blame Just Rhonda. She just had me on her show. They were talking about this person called Daniel Holtzclaw at Just Rhonda's YouTube channel. Man, it sounds like a great stream. I hope you guys had a great time. Just Rhonda, Rick D, mixing it up. Shout out. Tony Hay Munkets says, hey, Robert, we have the same time again. It's kind of funny considering I live right next door in Vegas. You are. Yeah, you are right next door. You're probably, I looked it up. I don't know, 3 hours from here. Much closer. We moved up north, so it's much closer to Vegas. Which is great. Vegas has a lot of stuff going on all the time. Good events, good conferences and stuff. Knox is here. Hey, happy Monday, all. I had the pleasure of hanging out with my two of my precious grandbabies today. My 3-year-old grandson told me his teacher was poopy. Well, yeah. Sounds like a smart young man. Identifying the poopy teachers. Going to have to deal with a lot of that in life. What's up, Hilarious Knox? Yeah. What kind of flags did she have in her classroom? Maybe that's why. Rob Stoops, Michigan Patriot, says, who controls paying these judges? Who can cut off their funding? Maybe that's something that should be done. I mean, Congress, right? So Congress has the power of the purse generally. Congress can set the jurisdiction of the judges. Congress can impeach these judges. Congress can do a bunch about these judges. Revise their jurisdiction, but they don't. Congress is useless. They're just going to spend some more money. That's all they can do. Pinochet's helicopter tours. You know, I heard helicopter parties and I got all excited. Oh, gosh. From Pinochet's helicopter tours. The best helicopter rides you've ever been on. In fact, once you take one of those rides, you'll never have to take another helicopter ride again. NY says, we should start discussing it because I imagine the government doing this as whistleblowers and rewards are legal. If Trump creates a reward for information leading to a deportation, who would shy away from doing so? From NY. Great question. T-Dog, what's up? Says, hey, Robert, great DOGE, FBI, DOJ, DOD, and the others. Yeah, they're much better than they were just a short time ago. Thank you, T-Dog. Thanks for being here for 7 months. 2 more. We got a full baby in the house. And Unicorn Monster B also just became a supporter. Great to see you. Unicorn Monster B. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow on the members only morning stream at 11 a.m. Eastern time tomorrow. Hopefully we see you there. Let's say hello to our friends on X, my friends. Then we're going to go over to locals and debrief for a little bit. We'll see who's joining us over there. What's up, Mini Tika? Mini Tika, great to see you. Thanks for sharing our Rumble link over on X. Danny McWilliams. Yeah, Danny, we talked about AutoPen this morning on the Membo stream. I think we'll be releasing a video on that. Yeah, and wow. Okay, so this guy was going to get deported. Now he's not going to get deported. Interesting. From Gen X. Great to see you. What's up, Wes Downer? Says, I wish I could figure out how to chat on X. Yeah, it's kind of complicated. X doesn't really have a good chat. And what's up? Vaughn Holland is calling out this story, saying the Senate GOP is now moving to repeal the consumer rule. Moving to repeal the consumer rule. Looks like an interesting one. So those are our friends over on X. Great to see everybody on X. Nice to follow you over there. My friends, we had this one from Stoops. What's up, Rob Stoops? I think Trump should actually troll the media and have Melania come in and run a cabinet meeting. Yeah, like the so-called Dr. Jill did that one time when Biden was having his ice cream back in the closet. Strange times. Remember that? What's up, Torin Chad? Says here, a shutdown. Here's some feedback from Torin Chad. A government shutdown would be devastating for my family right now. My husband is USDA. He does not make hundreds of thousands of dollars, works 6 days a week, still has to work, but not getting paid during a shutdown. We are in debt from my Graham's death expenses. I'm sorry to hear that. Rest in peace to Graham. I am finishing my PhD and Biden era hurt us financially. We're still recovering and trying to rebuild savings. There's more to shutdowns than people realize. He works hard to keep our food healthy. Torin Chad, thank you for that update. Yeah. Yeah, the Biden era hurt a lot of people financially. And I was just kind of coming up back during the Trump era. I had worked for other law firms, and then in 2014, founded my law firm, the R&R Law Group. And things were kind of strange, and then 2016 hit. August 2014, spare bedroom in my house, started taking cases on my own, left my law firm, just didn't like how these 2 other guys, anyways. And then from there in 2016, it was like a golden era. Our law firm grew. There was good energy in the economy. It took a little bit of time. So I think if you're, in this new era, I think you can do very well. So it sounds like you're setting yourself up for that with the PhD and other things. So I'm hopeful that this next 4 years really is the golden era for all of us, including your husband, Torin, and everybody here. And I believe it will be that. Much better than it was these last 4 years, because we've got some competent people at the helm now. So good stuff. Knox says, Ethan goes to a religious school named Cornerstone, so I think his teacher isn't pushing the trans stuff. From Knox. He just knows his granny would laugh. That's all. They are the best. So they got good teachers over there. But granny likes when little grandbabies say poopy, because it's funny. Kids say things. Really? Tell me about that. Good stuff. Thank you, Knox. Sounds fun. Glad you're getting some good time with your grandbabies over there. And thanks for sharing it with us. But my friends, that is where we will leave it on the day. We're going over to locals. We'll debrief a little bit. Membos, 1 hour earlier tomorrow, 11 Eastern for our Membos stream. And I can't wait to see you there. Otherwise, my friends, we want to thank our amazing mods and meme smiths before we wrap it up on the day. Thank you to K-Bean, Donut, Carrie B, Playing Hooky, Dog Digger, and Janek modding the fort down for us on the tubes, on locals, on Rumble. We're grateful for their amazing help. Government Butler says government employees get paid during shutdowns, from Philip Butler over on YouTube. Thank you, Philip, for that one. But my friends, we will leave it there on the day. Of course, we are coming back here tomorrow. We're on daylight time or off daylight time, whatever it is. 6 p.m. Eastern will be our live stream time. And I think that will nestle it in right between a couple of other shows. And so it'll be a nice home for us, I think, for the foreseeable future. But thanks for joining us and coming back tomorrow, because we're going to get into it again. And in order to do it appropriately, we're going to need to see you right back here so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Sleep very well. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.